welcome to the episode of The Hidden Influences. Actually, that's my podcast page. Welcome to another episode of Improving Mindsets. And I'm so glad to be here with you today because, as always, we're talking about media literacy, we're talking about getting enlightened. And, even though what we're talking about is rather serious, is rather, intellectual, I still like to add a little what will I call it? Some pizzazz to it, so to speak, So put it on a lighter mood, okay? But, these are still things to be taken very seriously. These are things to be imparted into our lives, into our mindsets as a whole, because, media literacy is a lifelong skill and it can only profit you, you can maximize the profit from it if you view it in that manner as a lifelong skill to enlighten you, to make you understand how your mindsets are being shaped and what you can do about it. So, that's basically what it's all about. So we started a series last week, right, of critical thinking questions, right? Critical thinking questions to ask because we are developing habits of inquiry, we're developing habits of reflection, especially when it comes to our dissection of media messages, our intake and our imbibation of media messages, you know. So we're going to get straight to it because I would like us to gain as much as possible. So we stopped at content. There are different sectors to this when considering a media message. So we stopped at content. And the last question that was asked is what is left out and what might be important to know. Okay, so we're moving on to the next question after that. And that is, sorry guys, whose voices are included and whose are left out. Okay, whose voices are included and whose are left out. Now, this is, quite crucial because, you're talking about different aspects now. And this is the most important, really, in a real life setting. So, for example, if you have a situation where, there's a newscast that needs to be analyzed, a situation needs to be analyzed, different people are involved. But what happens is multiple people do not get the chance to speak. Let's say it's only like 2 or 3 people that get the chance to speak about a situation that almost 100 people are involved in. So, the voices are not equal. The amount of attention and the amount of, focus or retention given to these people is not the same, is not equal. And one person might have a completely different version of the story than another person might have. So if every single person is not given, an opportunity to speak their mind, that, will result in exclusion, will result in a sort of misrepresentation, really, because then the actual facts will not be found out. So these are questions that you need to ask when, you're talking about media literacy skills and what critical thinking questions should be asked. So the next question is, how does this compare to other messages on this topic? How does this compare to other messages on this topic? Now, you can start by saying, what are the messages in the first place? Like, if you are watching a movie series, so sorry for the bringing transmission. So, if you're talking about, if you have, let's say, a book on improving yourself or self-improvement, okay, I have that book tells you to do 5 steps a day to get to this particular phase in your life that you want to get to. And then you have another book that's also on self-improvement. And then it's telling you 3 actions a day, to get to that particular phase of life. Now, those are 2 books on the same thing, on the same topic, but they're approaching it in very different ways, okay? And this can be seen across all sorts of things, all sorts of, scenarios. In movies, you have, 2 different movies that portray the same thing in either a positive way or a negative way, okay? So, that's actually about misrepresentation, but that's a topic for another day, okay? So, but, you could have various views on one topic. So, I think when it comes to this particular subject, this particular question, the defining factor should be what sort of experience does the person have, or how credible is this view, how credible is this opinion. For example, if two people are writing, let's say, a paper on geology, okay, and you have one person who is just fresh out of school, studied geology, and then you have another person who is a PhD holder in geology, so, and both of these people have to write the same paper on geology. So certainly, if you're going to pick one to choose as the most credible source, I believe it would be, the one with the PhD. So it is about, credibility, really, when you want to say, how does this compare to the other messages on this topic, you know. So, of course, there are various other aspects to that as well. But I believe these are questions that you need to ask yourself and reflect on, as you are, watching these media messages, as you're imbibing them. So those are things that you need to reflect on. So, moving on to techniques. What techniques are used to communicate the message? Okay, so the media, as powerful as it is, is really also brilliant, because the simple fact is they send a variety of messages to your subconscious. Now, like I've stated multiple times, the problem comes in with the sort of messages that they are sending. They're sending quite negative messages, because the media on its own is neutral. Okay? What makes a media forum good or bad is the sort of messages that are embedded within, the sort of messages that are sent within. That is what defines it as either good or bad. So where the problem comes in now is the overwhelming amount of bad that we have in the mainstream media. We have so many movies. This is like a 95% thing, really. About how much negativity there is in the media compared to how much positivity there is. So they try to intentionally perpetuate these negative messages. So that is where the problem comes in. So, but how do they do this? What techniques do they use, either for good or for bad? Because, we are learning to dissect all media now. So, what techniques? So there are different techniques that they use, right? Of course, we know the most common ones: words, music, lyrics. But they also use mudras, known as hand signals. Okay. They also do something called intense focusing, which is to increase the level of retention that you have for a particular message. Because it goes like this, right? What we hear, okay, and what we see. Like, if you hear something, there's a lesser level of retention than if you hear and see it. Okay? So if you hear something, you have, let's say, a 30% chance of remembering it. But if you hear and see something, you have, let's say, a 50 to 60% chance of remembering it. So they use all these techniques. They focus on faces, especially. I've noticed that they do this, especially when they are sending their negative messages, because they want you to retain that negative message. So they focus, they use that. They use their mudras also, their hand signals. Mudras are hand signals. Okay? They use all these, different varieties of techniques, because they are very clever at what they're doing, okay? So you need to understand that. They use various techniques to send those messages to your mind, to your subconscious, okay? So we need to be able to detect. Now, the next question. And by the way, I will be taking us through, analysis of some media forums, doing a media literacy dissection on, let's say, a particular skit or a particular movie or a particular song, just to help you understand, how that process actually goes, So what is the next question on this? So why might have they chosen to use these techniques? Why might they have chosen to use these techniques? Now, there are a variety of reasons. For example, if you are, producing a song now, let's say the song is the media, because, songs, movies, music, adverts, posters, all of that, it's all media. So, if you're producing a song and you decide that you want the impartation, most of these songs are sending very negative messages, by the way. Most of these songs that we listen to these days are so popular, are full of crap, and you're sending, very negative messages that I wonder why people even listen to them, really. So, but anyways, now why might have they chosen to use this technique? So if you're using a song now and you want to impart a message to the mind, to the subconscious, what you do is you might use a repetitive chorus. Okay, a repetitive chorus will be used. Of course, that's why you have that. A chorus is the part of the song that people remember the most, because that is the one that is repeated, and reinforcement is part of the technique that I use in the media. Anyways, one of the techniques. So if you are making a movie now, you use something like your mudra. You use something like your intense focusing. Why? To like I said before, to further impart that message, to further ensure the retention of that message. Now the problem is, like I'll continue to state, the negativity in the messages. Because if they are sending positive messages, then no problem, then that's fine. But they're sending very negative messages that are actually affecting the way that you think. They're affecting your views of life, affecting it in quite a negative manner. So, why might have they chosen to use these techniques? If you are, watching an advert now, and they want you, of course, the end game is to get you to buy the product. And, they choose to use a technique like this, a storyline that appeals to your mind, that appeals to your heart. Because that's what they do, actually. They target emotions. That's what they do. So, that appeals to you. So, they have chosen to appeal to your emotions and connect it to that product. So you get that attachment to that product, because it has given you something, a visual stimulation most of the time, that appeals to you. Okay, so they use quite a number of techniques, quite a number. Okay, now the next question, and this is a very important one. They are all important, by the way. They are all important, but this is a crux. So, was this crafted to trigger emotions? If so, how and why? Now, was this crafted to trigger emotions? If so, how and why? Okay, so they are always targeting your emotions, actually. Very rarely will you see a media firm that does not target your emotions. Very, very rarely. Okay, because the point is to make you feel something. And most of the time, it is not good. Now, what they do is they don't really change your analysis of the issue. What they change is how you feel about it. Okay? They don't really change the let's say the definition in your mind. Sometimes they do that, but not all the time. But what they do is change how you feel about it. Okay, so you often have there are a lot of anyways, I would encourage you to watch some of my other videos so you get some more understanding. There are a lot of things that are being done here. This is a multifaceted problem. Okay, so and I'm going to categorize this in different sections because there are different media messages, right? Some are general, some media messages are targeted, okay, and some are general. Some are for everybody. Some are for only men. Some are for only women. Some are for only children. Some are for only, let's say, white people or Africans. Some are for only a particular race. Or some are for only even a particular age group. Not even, just general. Even just a bracket of an age group. So there are different sorts of messages targeted to different sorts of people. Okay, so you need to understand the end game of this, the purpose of this. Now, if they trigger your emotions, it is often to connote something negative, because they are always triggering your emotions, actually. But it is often for something negative. Now, I'm going to state the ones that I've noticed the most that they try to promote their negativity, okay? Now, for guys, they try to make you repress your emotions, okay? And make you feel like anger really is the only emotion that you can express, okay? They want to portray this view of the male as bad, as mean, as cruel, as wicked, really. Because they want to slowly turn them into that. They want to slowly turn guys into that, really. they portray women as, overly materialistic, like all about sorry, all about money, all about, material things, all about men, so to speak, not letting the lady realize that her life can be separate from a man. you know they encourage insecurities, encourage emotional insecurities. But actually, ladies express their feelings openly. They are not told to repress their feelings, but they are encouraged to feel insecure about themselves. You're encouraged to view yourself as less than. And this is a devilish plan. You need to know your power, by the way. This is a devilish plan. This is all a devilish plan. Now, for children, they try to make them, disrespectful to their parents, view their parents as tyrants, make them feel like they don't have to listen to their parents at all, make them feel like they don't owe them anything. They're trying to craft the world in a negative way. They encourage racism, encourage tribalism, all sorts of ills. So we need to be aware of this. And they're so clever. This is the problem. They're so clever at what they do. They in fact, they're evil geniuses, really. Because this is one thing I have to state. Being brilliant and being good are two different things. Two very, very different things. You can be brilliant and be wicked. You can be brilliant and be good. These people, they're brilliant, but their hearts are wicked. They are using their genius for evil. So you need to be aware of what they're doing to you. Because they don't even hide it. They don't even hide what they're doing. So let us be aware so we can gain some progress. Now, that is all the questions on the techniques. Now, when it comes to context, now, the first question under context is, when was this created and how was it shared? When was this created and how was it shared? Now, we need to understand that, this is actually a very important question in certain aspects, okay? Because if you have, for example, an American movie, okay, which is where the origin is, Hollywood, you have an American movie, right? And it's telling you about a situation in America and will be fully understood by people who live in America, right? Now, if you now bring, like we all do anyways, we all watch American movies. If you now bring that same movie, right, to somebody in Nigeria or in West Africa or in, South Africa, wherever, but it's not America anyways, and that person watches that same movie, the context for the person will be completely different. Because there are certain, pieces of information that person does not have that the American has, because the American is most likely directly affected by that movie, but you are just watching it as something about a place that you've never really been before, or you don't even really want to know too much about, but you're just watching it. So the context can vary greatly. And when was this created and how was it shared? Now, we've covered the concept of creation in context and how was it shared. This is a global world now. There is no such thing as there are no barriers anymore. You can be, I've had Twitter spaces. I'm talking to people in the United States in my room on Twitter. I'm talking to people in South Africa in my room on Twitter, because we're all having conversations about, intellectual things. So, like, there's no barrier in the world anymore, really. The internet has taken that away. So, you can share something here and it gets to people on the other side of the world. There's no barrier anymore. So how is it shared? It can be shared to, as many people as possible. The only thing really here that is very significant is the context and of the creation. The context by which it was created. How it was made, so to speak. what thoughts went into this. And also it surprises me, honestly, a lot of people actually understand that yes, the media might have a great influence, but there are some people that I've met that do not actually understand this, and it baffles me, because how do you expect that people spent millions of dollars and years of their time to make one movie, and you expect that there's nothing else behind it only to entertain you? Even cartoons, they spend years making cartoons. Just one animation that you watch for 1 hour 30 minutes, they spend years making it. Talk less of movies, they spend millions on this every year, and you think that they are doing this just for your entertainment. So please, let us be aware. So let us, the next question on this is, what aspects of, and this will be the last question for today, because like I said, this is a series, because there are a lot of things to cover, so we will continue in the next episode, but the last question: what aspects of historical or cultural context are relevant to consider? What aspects of historical or cultural context are relevant to consider? Now, okay, this is where misrepresentation comes in. Okay, misrepresentation, as bad as it is something that is constant in the media. It's always there. Constant misrepresentation, which is the problem anyways. So, if you're looking at this, this is most, I'm going to explain this in an analogy, so to speak. Now, I'm an African, right? And we were colonized in Africa, Nigeria in particular, right? So if I'm watching a movie, okay, made by Americans, okay, about Africa, and then they only say how they came here and conquered us, and they took our people and made them slaves, and they glorify that, so to speak. Now, is that historical context accurate? They only paint, okay, now, in fact, now I'm going to use, this is not an analogy, I'm going to use a direct scene that happened. There is this cartoon called Pocahontas. Okay? It's Pocahontas 1, 2, 3, I think. I love this cartoon when I was a child so much. But now, I watched it again recently as an adult through media literate eyes, right? And I'm telling you, these people, remember, it is made in Hollywood, but Pocahontas is an Indian, that's it, a native Indian, a Native American, so to speak, a red Indian. You know that they were the ones who were in America first. The America belongs to the red Indians, to the Native American. That's why they call them Native Americans. Imagine that. So, but it originally belonged to them. But when Columbus came, then they claimed the land and they basically killed all of them. So hardly in America today, hardly will you see even up to 20,000 red Indians anymore, because they basically finished their ancestors. So, and now they portrayed an example of what happened in Pocahontas, but they now made it seem as if the British were actually good, like they came to that Britain is the father of America. There's no America without Britain. So they came as if they glorified their conquest, so to speak, and they made it seem like they tried to make peace with the Red Indian warlords and their rulers. They tried to make it seem like they did the right thing, when in the truth they slaughtered them. When in truth they finished. They took America. I mean, America. Everybody knows who America belongs to today, but it was not always like that. It took everything from them. But in their cartoons, they make it seem like, no, they're the good guys. Let us be aware of how they distort reality, of how they distort perception. Because they continually do this. It is constant. It is every single time. Let us be aware. So, I hope you're getting enlightened. I hope you're making more progress in your media literature journey. That is the point of all this. So, I'm glad that we're definitely making some progress. Thank Lord Almighty. So I'm gonna see you all next week. Have a wonderful day. Keep being enlightened. Keep reading. Keep asking good questions. Keep being the best you can be. Okay? Do not accept mediocrity. Do not accept anything less than what you deserve, and keep being awesome. Have a wonderful day, guys.